Okay, good evening, everybody, all our YouTube crowd and everybody here. Ein Tessamodal of Shabbos is where we are in the Dirshu Amud Yomi. I trust you people to have been through the Shtarchov business on Shabbos. Today's Sunday. So today we are in the two dots. Ein Tessamodal of Shabbos. Line starts with the word Chazi Gavo de Poro Ano. Two dots or Kedei La Asois. Today we're going to learn about leather. Leather. Why would people use leather? So what did we see in the Mishnah? The amount of leather you're chayav for carrying out is in order to make a kamiyah, right? In order to make the cover for a kamiyah. Okay, so now how much is that? Bo min Rav Nachman. Hamoitzi o bekama. Moitzi o bekama. Although we know the answer because the Mishnah says, the Gemara still asks the question, how much are you chayav? How much leather are you chayav? If you took out the leather on Shabbos, what's the amount this year that's mechayiv you? Omar leikedet nan. Well, then we learned in the Mishnah. All kedelasois kamea. All is enough to make a kamea, and I saw that the pshat is to actually. I don't know if it means to write the kamea because I saw people saying that lasos means the cover for the kamea case, right? What did Rashi say in the Mishnah? Didn't it say it in the Mishnah also? I think. Let me check. 1 second. You want to check the Mishnah? Nice. You're saying the must be that we're talking about covering the kamea, because some kameas are not written. Some kameas is actually a whole bunch of herbs. And these herbs have to be collected in one case. So the normal thing one would use or of course you can use leather for all types of things, but the smallest and amongst the normal things you use it for, we always go for the smallest one. We have to be machmir on Shabbos. So of course people can make a big leather jacket, if you drive a motorcycle, or leather boots, or leather whatever, they are bigger. But lamaisi go for the smallest one from anything from within those that are normally is normally used for. So now the kamezit, that wasn't even a question because Rava asked Rav Nachman only in order to get him into the conversation. Oh, lasas kamez before Shana Mishnah. Now comes another question. Me'abdoi bekama. Let's say, the one of the melachos, one of the 39 melachos is me'abed. Me'abed belongs to the third group of melachos. They have to do with leather. Me'abed basically means to process it, to make it usable, make it long-lasting. We know that the skin, if you don't treat it, it's going to go bad. It's going to, excuse my language, stink. You can't, how do you wear leather shoes? Ibud is a process of 3-4 stages, and the ibud basically preserve it. Ibud in general is preserving. That's why we're not allowed to salt vegetables on Shabbos, because although there's no ibud boichlin, as you saw, right, in Daf and Dalad and Beis, but Lamaisa, there is an Isser ibud with the Rabbanon. It looks like ibud when you salt it, when you brine, when you put it in something that preserves it, that's called ibud. So ibud of the leather is one of the lamates malachos. What's the size? What's the shear chiyuv? Each and every malacha has a shear. Some of them b'chol shu. Yeah, but what's the shear? Omalei loishna, same thing. Meaning the amount of leather I'm chai for doing ibud is the amount necessary for a kamea. How much is a kamea? They knew. I guess they had a standard kamea. Le'abdoi bekama, which means let's say you're taking a piece of leather that's not yet me'ubad, it's not yet processed, it's not yet preserved, it's still raw. Yeah, leather, but le'abda means it's a piece of leather that is meant to be me'ubad. It's there, and you know that one day you're going to be me'abad it, making it from skin into leather. Yeah, you're going to tan it, you're going to develop it, you're going to do something nice with it, but right now it's still raw material. What's a shear? Because the Mishnah spoke about or that's me'ubad. Normally, when we say or, we mean leather, already ready to use. How much would be chayav of the one that's not yet ready to use? It's in its early stages, in the more undeveloped stages, before it's been salted and tanned. Same thing. Interesting. In other words, this is important to know because we're going to attack that many times. Right now, we see that the material that's unprocessed and material that is processed have the same shear. Yes, unprocessed leather and processed leather have the same shear of kedelasas kamer. Yes. Uminat temra. How do we know that? Kedetnan. I'll prove it to you from a Mishnah later on. Now we're going to prove leather from the second set of malachas. Did you realize when you learned the Mishnah when I was away that there are four groups of melachos and Shabbos: food, yeah, clothes, leather, and the yes and no, the last ones, which may have to do with shelter. The second group has to do with fabrics. Yeah, the Pnei Yehoshua says that. Second group is about the fabrics. And what does it say over there? Hamilabin, a person who bleaches, he cleans and bleaches the wool. Vehamenape, it's a person who combs the wool. Vatzovea, the person who dyes the wool. Vatoive is the person who takes the wool and he spins it into threads. Shi'uroi kimloi rochav asit koful. In other words, all those things that are there in order to prepare the thread, all of them are the same shirt. Look at me fingers. Rochav asit koful is this. I'm not a kohen. Yeah? Sit koful is this. That's another sit. Sit koful, yeah, that's from here to here, from the middle finger to the other middle finger. That's the size of a chut you chayav by creating the chut, taking raw leather and making it raw wool, from raw wool to a proper thread, which you can use in your tzitzis. That is, by the way, it's the same as this. I'll say later. This is equivalent to this. Yeah, from the thumb to the index finger, right? Yeah, I'm not shooting anybody. Don't worry. From here to here, that is the amount of chut you have on creating the chut, creating the thread from the very early start of the until the twin melabed and menapitz and chule. And yet it says, yeah, what?
But assuming there's no loss in size from the raw materials from the later on?
No, even if there is, each one you chayav. If you're melaben, maybe it's different people doing it. It doesn't make a difference. Each one is chayav separately. Reuven was melaben. Reuven on Shabbos Pashas Bereshis, he did libun on what? On Meloi Sid Kofel is chayav. Then Shimon and Pashas Shmois, he did tzvia, maybe on a different one. Could be. I hear what you're saying, but at the end of the day, we always treat it. Each one is a share of creating the desired chut, and chut is always in halacha sit kofel. Now, but here comes the real punchline, and it says now comes the second one. The oireg shnei chutin shiurim larochav sit kofel. What does that mean? Oh, oireg is a different story. Oireg is a whole new chapter. Oireg with an aleph means what? To weave. If a person took that chut, two chutim, and how much are those chutim? What's the length of those chutim? Two. Each one has the size of a sit koful, and you intertwine them. You wove them, but weaving really means interweaving them into the weft and the warp together. You have sit koful. So you see, when we create from the raw material, we create the final material. It's a shear, and it's the same shear exactly for the finished material. The processed material, once we use that to go further, to go weiter, I have the chut. All the malachas up until now, to dye and to menapetz and to be toiv, or to prepare the chut, prepare it. Now that I have already prepared chut, it stays with the same shear. That is actually chiddush. Maybe the chiddush is what you were saying also. We don't care about any differences. We stay the same. Aha, that's exactly what we're looking for. Alma, that is to say, Kevin de Latvia Kai, Shiuroi Ketovui, because, you're right, though, David, because Latvia Kai, because right from the beginning, when I was shearing the wool, I knew that my end goal is to have a chut of sit koful. So the unprepared material, when I'm on my way to creating a chut, it's the same shear as the prepared chut. And once I take the chut and take it further to weave it, weaving is not creating a chut. He's taking the ready chut and creating a fabric with it. It stays the same shear. So unprocessed and processed are the same. Voila, that's exactly what we're looking for. Hachinami, very good. Because that piece of leather one day will be a big boy, that piece of leather will become a tanned, prepared, ready leather. Yeah, you're not going to throw it to the garbage for animals to eat. It's something you'll have ibud. Therefore, shiur kemeubad. It's the same shear, meaning before ibud and after ibud, before it's called leather. In English, it's actually better than Hebrew. It's better. Sometimes English is better than Hebrew, rare occasions. You guys call it skin and then leather. Very good. Hide and then leather, right? When it was skin, now you turn it into leather. It's already leather, marketable and used for your next kamea. It's the same shear before and after. Okay, so that begs the question, v'shelo la'abdoi bekama. What happens if you have a piece of leather that is actually there, but it's not meant to be me'ubad? You'll never make ibud with that. You leave it like a piece of skin, hide, not me'ubad. As we're going to see later on, there are sometimes people use like half me'ubad or non-me'ubad pieces of skin slash leather, not completely me'ubad. They had their usages still. What's the shear over there? Same thing. Surprisingly, we still stay with the same idea of the of kidei lasos kameh. In order to create the kameh case, it's the same idea. Loishno. The Gemara will discuss later also something to do with that, but let's leave that for now. In other words, the so far Lamais is very, very easy. Lamais, when it comes to leather, leather is a nice guy, leatherman. Before Ibud, whether it will be me'ubad, it won't be me'ubad, before Ibud, after Ibud, low profile. Rosh Katan, what? It's always kedei lasas kameh. Because maybe kameh is okay for the non-me'ubad and me'ubad, maybe. So everything is one size fits all. It's always kedei lasas kameh. Beautiful. But that brings the Gemara to that begs the question. That provokes the Gemara to ask the question. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shekol yom. It can either be a statement or preparing the next question. We did not differentiate between the one that's me'ubad already, that's already good leather, usable, tanned, and good, and the one that she'ena me'ubad, it's the same as we spoke about regarding the chutim before and after. It's the same. Eisive, that we're going to ask about 3 questions about that. Hamoitzi samonin. What are simonim? So we learned about simonim in Daf Yud Zayin Amud Beis in the Mishnah, if you remember, and maybe in other places before. Simonim actually, I think that's how they do them today. Also, I don't know. But simonim basically, you take simonim are colors, dyes. So you take, at least in the olden days, all kinds of herbs that are colorful, right? I don't know, hibiscus and turmeric, and you cook them in water. Sometimes you just soak them, sometimes you cook them. These are the first 11 malachos. In the Mishkan, they didn't bake bread, Rashi says it. They cooked some imonim. So basically, when you take some imonim and you cook them, the unprepared stage is when I have all these nice flowers that are very colorful, red, green, orange, right? They are unprepared. Eventually, I put them in the water. I may cook them, just soak them, depends which ones, all types. And then I have ready-made color. Now I have like a color we have today, a dye. We have like a liquid, red liquid or blue liquid I can paint with. Yeah, so the unprepared are just herbs and fruit, and the prepared one is after I shmushed it and I zoomed it and I prepared it. Now I have like paint that I can paint my house with. That's unprepared. That's prepared. What's a shear? What's a shear for haitzah, for taking out the unprepared ones and the prepared? It says a moitzes amonin shruin kededitzbo behen dugma leira, which means if you have some imonim that already show, that already ready and prepared, you would take them out and you chayav, even if you took, in order to just paint, dye a small dugma. Dugma means a sample. Let's say you want to show what amazing colors you have. You're a color guy. So like, right, you have the chiputs, right? They come with like no, how do you call it? Like manifa, they call it. A sample book or a sample, yeah, like a thing, whatever. Yeah. Like a fan, they call it, right? With the samples of different colors, different hues. So he wants to use the color, the dye, you chayiv, even if you took out a small one, that's enough just to paint a dugma, which is good for ira. What's ira? Ira has to do with weaving. When they would weave the weft and throw the weft through the warp, boom, 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 it would all be contained in a thing called buchna. Buchna is like a cylinder, and all the thread, the entire thread would be coiled over here. But in order for it not to run away too quick or too fast or to monitor it, they would stuff it with some fluff over here. And that fluff is called the ira. So that's a small one. Bekitz, it's a very, very small amount. The ilu b'samonin she'enat shoin, if you want to take out to the street on Shabbos chas v'sholom, where there's no eruv, you take samonim which are not shruin, meaning there are samonim that are raw. They're just, leaves, fruit. How much are you chayev? Tnan, it says, klipe goizim. This is actually the inner soft skin of the goizim, of the nuts, or before they get hard, it's soft, the nuts, the klipe rimoinin. Pomegranates are very red, right? Kliperimoinin, sitis, upua, the different herbs that are very colorful. What's the share over there? Kedilitzbo behen, beged cotton lefis vocha. Beged cotton lefis vocha means women, they would have like a hat with all the hair underneath, and in the middle there was a hole. They would stuff the hole with a different piece of fabric. That would be like the beged cotton. And then it's bigger than the one before. That's bigger than the one before. So you see that the unprepared one, if I want to take out the unprepared color, the raw color, the dye in the first stage, I'm chayev on a bigger amount. When I take out the one prepared already, me'ubad and all dyed, nice, not dyed, already in liquid and nice and ready to use, then I take even for the small one. So you see, wrong. You see that you're comparing the leather to sitkoful of the threads. Why don't you compare it over here? Over here, we see that the size before and the size after are not the same. Answers the Gemara, Itmar Allah, we're in the first wide line. Amar of Nachman, Omar Abba Baravua, they explain something about this Mishnah. Lefi she'en odem toireach, you know, it's toireach. Lishra samani litzba ben dugma le'ira, which means a person, makes a lot of sense, a person would not start to go through this whole tircha of creating a nice liquidy, nice good dye just for the dugma. It's not worth the effort. If I want to dye the woman's hat or part of the woman's hat, I have a client and she wants me to dye her hat or the top of the hat, it's kedai to take even the raw material and do the whole process in order to in order to paint that. Masha'en can, if I already have paint that's ready made at home, I prepared it 2 weeks ago, I already have it then of course it's kedai to take it out even for a small job. It makes a lot of sense. What about leather? Says Rashi, but leather, no. But leather, whether it's prepared or unprepared, it's still kedai. It's kedai to even prepare the leather just in order to hold the kameh. Yes. By kameh, in people's psyche, in people's psychology, even if it's unprepared, it's worthwhile to prepare and do the whole tircha just to have a case for the kameh. And therefore, it's the same. What happens after it's prepared? Same thing, kameh. Kameh it is, and kameh it will be. But when it comes to the dyeing, it's different between before and after. To start the whole process of manufacturing or creating the dye, I'm not crazy to do that for a tiny dugma. If I have a client that wants to dye her hat, for that it's kedai to do it, I'm chayev, right? Already, if I took, only if I took for the big amount, it's kedai to take the raw one. But for the small job, I would only do it if I already have ready dye that I don't have to work for. Now, another similar question, now from Zriya. Frag the Gemara, oine gina. The oine gina are basically, these are the seeds of the garden seeds, vegetable seeds. And what do we say about them? How many seeds are you chayev if you took out on Shabbos? The mikami dezar inu. How many seeds are you chayev for? If you, before you sow them, you're going now to plant them, to sow them in the garden. How many of them are you chayev on? Tnan, it says in the Mishnah, the little seeds of tomatoes, of cucumbers, of peppers, even less than the grogeres, which means, what's the chiddush grogeres? You all know by now from Daf Ayin, we know Fiknu, and what's grogeres always in Shabbos? The amount of food to take out and other things. Now I'm not going to eat these things. I'm taking something that's edible, tomato, peppers. I saw that in the deal show, the quarter of the Rishonim. I'm taking seeds of pepper and of even edible ones. Let's say the cucumber and the tomato, because I'm not going to eat them. If I want to eat them, grogeres, that's the default. Because I don't want to eat them, I want to sow them in the ground. It's even less than grogeres, because to put them in the ground, I'm chayev even on less, because people do less than that, right? People put in the ground even a few, 4 or 5 cucumbers seeds that are less than grogeres, or even 10 or 11. Masha'enken Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira oimer chamisha. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says no. There's the standard amount of chamisha. Why? 5 zoroinim, I guess he takes it from a kerem. You know, the kerem is only called a kerem when you have 5 vines together. And an aruga is only if you have 5 zoroinim. I have 5 zoroinim together, with 5 little seeds together, they create like a garden patch. So mimel, if I'm chayev, I took 5 to sow, that's called normal. That's accepted to take out to the garden in order to sow. I'm chayiv on that. Okay, so you see that before I have the ready product, meaning before I have a vegetable, I don't have the cucumbers, I don't have the tomato. What do I have? Nothing. I'm going to put them in the ground now. So then I'm chayiv on five, not less, no less than five. Five is the most machmir. Four, I'm not chayiv. It's less than sure because I'm crazy. Normal gardeners, normal farmers don't take out the whole shkoyach. Hello, I'm putting on my head, going to sow four. We're going for four. Yeah, five at least. Mashe'en ken vilu basar dezarhinu. When it comes to after I already have a ready vegetables, after it's in the ground and it started growing, tnan, it says over there, zevel, a fertilizer, the choladak, the thin kind of sand, which is also fertilizer, kind of. Kedei lezabel bokelach shel kruv. I'm chayev, even if I took in order to fertilize one cabbage head. Yeah, Dibra Rabbi Akiva. The Chachamim kedei krisha. Chachamim say even the smaller vegetables called krisha. I think krisha is leek, I think, or something. Yeah. Bekitzer, wait a second. You see again. Hey, your formula is wrong because you see before I have a ready vegetable, I have a vegetable to be. I'm chayav on five. Once I already have a vegetable nice and growing, no, nice and it's there already. I'm chayav even if I took zevel to treat one piece, not five. So you see against what you're saying. Answers the Gemara, the same answer as before. We learned about it. Omar of Pope, had zriya, had lo zriya. As we said, that is not yet planted. That's already planted. A person would not start a whole tircha, a whole business, a whole hassle to go out to the field and take his hoe and take his thing and water and thing for one zera, not even three or four, just five. That's worth the effort. But once I have, look at that, I have a whole cabbage. That's worth it. A whole cabbage can be 3 meals, right? A whole cabbage, of course, it's kedai to even take out enough zevel for that. As opposed to the leather, no. Leather before or after, it's the same kind. The mindset of people is it's kedai to even take the unprocessed leather and process it kedai lasus kameh, and afterwards still kameh. That's the same thing, as opposed to the other malachas. Na varitit. What about the tit? As that we saw on Shabbos. This is Friday's Gemara. You see, we do learn the Friday Shabbos Gemaras. Frag the Gemara varitit. What's tit? It is like not mud. How do you call it? Cement, like old kind, old style cement. Yeah, varitit. The mekami deligbele. Before you mix the cement, yeah, Tanya. It says in the Mishnah, I think we saw it. Moedim chachamim, maybe the Brisa before. Yeah, moedim chachamim le Rab Shimon Lozo. Yeah, that was the Brisa. It was the Brisa. Moedim chachamim Rab Shimon. Chachamim agree to Rab Shimon. B'moitzi shoyfchin l'shut rabim. A person takes, sewage, disgusting water from the toilet, urine, and if he took that from the house to the street, sheshuron beravis. Yeah, the amount is a ravis, like almost all other liquids. And we had a question, disgusting. What are you taking the toilet water for? Yeah, what for? What are they good for? Imagine there's something you can do with the toilet thing, and then is the gabel to mix the cement with them. It's very good for the cement, okay? So how much? A revis is a lot. In other words, what's a choshuva amount of teeth of cement? The one that can be nicely mixed with the whole revis, the whole chat pami cup, disposable cup, more or less is okay, very nice. And yet, basar de gable, once you already have the ready teeth, how much is the chiyuv over there? Tanya, it says in the Brisa, teeth kidelasas ben pikur. Oh, what's pikur? Kur is a furnace. The furnace, they would have a furnace for creating kalim, for creating vessels, utensils. The fire was inside, and they would blow air with a special kli, with a mapuach, like a blower. That blower would have to go through like a mouthpiece, a round mouthpiece in the furnace. They would have like a round hole, and that round hole would have to be covered or like plated with teeth. And that's a very small amount. So if you took teeth from your house with just the amount that's just tried to create the mouthpiece, that mouthpiece, you're already chayav. So you see again, there is no bichlal, no equality here between the unprepared and prepared. Unprepared is a ganz revis, and the prepared one is much less. Look, it's that small. Answers the Gemara, so now the same answer again. Kedamo, and as we said before, if I don't have ready-made tit to start creating the tit, what? To start taking the urine and mix it with the tit and do a whole mixing, all the just for mapitom, just for the small amount for the pit? No way. Once I already have tit that I created before, then of course it's kedai to take out even a small piece. If I already have the product in my house, which either I made or somebody else made, then it's kedai for me. It's worthwhile and logical to take a small amount, and in order just to create the pit, cool. Same thing, as opposed to what? Same logic again and again and again. It's opposed to the leather. That's no. Leather is always kamea. Kamea before, kamea after. Before and after the processing, it's always the same. So basically, we had a nice tour of 3 different cases where there's a difference between before the process and after it's already processed and ready. Okay, Toshma, let's learn more about leather, and tomorrow even more. Yeah, Ein Tes. Ein Tes is a good simon. Or Tov. Oh, always leather. 1 second. Okay, fine, weiter. Let's see. Toshma. There are 3 types of leather. Before we continue, as you're going to see very soon, there are basically, really more, but basically there are 3 levels to processing, to the ibud, to the processing of leather. From the very raw leather to the leather that you have to do 3 things. You have to put it in salt, that's clearly mabed. Salting preserves. Then they will put it in dough, in maim and kemach mixed together, and then they would put it in something called afatzim. Afatzim in modern Hebrew is basically blisters of the tree. Or afatzim, I think in Old Hebrew means afatzim are like fruits, the small types of fruit. I don't know, the article translates. And there's the water of the afatzim would make it more acidy and harder. And then the leather will become hard enough the way you want it. So if you go through salting it, putting it into dough, and then putting it into the afatzim water to make it harder and better and clearer, then you have a good, nice leather. Mazel tov. But now we're going to see all 3 types. Shloisha orasen. There are 3 types of leather. Matzah, v'chipa, v'diftera. Don't worry, everything will be explained. Really, there are not 3 types. It's not like this is from the cow and this is from the antelope. It's the same leather that each one stopped in a different station. One was only a little bit processed, the other one more, and the other one even more. Matzah, kemashmoi. Matzah means like matzah of Pesach. What's special about matzah? Are you allowed to have matzah at least in Leila Seder with what? With salt, with let's say with honey mixed inside? No, lechem oini. Matzah is supposed to be just 2 things: water, flour, finished. Matzah kemashmoi, meaning it's untouched, unprocessed. Deloy maliach, v'deloy kamiach, v'deloy ofitz. It hasn't been through anything. It's absolutely raw. But there is still use for it, as I told you. The kama shiuroi, what would you say the shiur of the unprocessed one? We said unprocessed, even unprocessed, that's not meant to be me'ubad. We said the shiur is like kamea. Oh, look at that. It says, Tani Rav Shmuel bar Rav Yehuda, kedelot suba mishkoiles ktano. Enough to hold in it a small weight, meaning, a small weight. What does it mean? In the olden days, I remember as a child actually, the weights were like small pieces of metal, right? 1 kilo, half a kilo. And people in the olden days, you see it in Bava Basar, Daf Peitet, Daf Tzadi, around there. You have to be very yashar. You have to be very honest with the mishkolos, right? And sometimes the small mishkolos, because it was made out of sensitive kind of metal, it would wear off. They would preserve it in the leather. And that kind of leather that actually not processed, that's the best leather, to make a little pouch to keep your mishkolis inside. But how big is the mishkolis? We're looking for sizes. The kama, thank you, how much? Amar Abaye, riva de pumpedisa. A quarter of the loig of pumpedisa. Yeah, Rashi says litra, excuse me, the quarter of the litra of pumpedisa, which means each town, the Gemara there says, Basra, is allowed to have its own measurement, right? We can decide a meter is this long, and another country meter is that long. Mile, meal, yeah. American dollar, Canadian dollar, different sizes. So Bekitzer, but one thing we see, it doesn't say that the size is Kedei Kamer. Let's leave that aside for now. Chipa, what is the second kind of, what's lechapot? To cover. Chipa de maliach. Chipa is a bit more processed. It's a type of leather that is, you can tick one box. It's been maliach, it's been salted, veloy kamiach, veloy ofitz. It hasn't been through the kemach, through the dough, and not afitz, and it hasn't been through the afatzim. V'kama shiur, how much is the shiur of that? Kedetnan, that's a regular leather. Oh, kedelatzos kamiach, that's normal. The regular middle of the road leather is enough to make it kameah. That's called processed halfway. How much would you take it to make it kameah? Diftera, what's the third one? It's a bit better. The maliach, the kamiach, it's been through the salt, tick. It's been through the kamiach, the flour and water, tick. Veloy ofitz, but they didn't do the fotzim, they didn't do the last harder one. Become a shiuroi, what's the shiur of that? Kedelichtov all of us a get. In order to write stuff on it. The shorter text, which is halachic, is the get. Lo aleinu. Get is just, hareat muteres l'chol odom. You are now permitted to anybody, his name, her name, the Adim, the town where they live. It's supposed to be a short, the time, supposed to be a short kind of text, and that shear is the smallest of all of them. But we care about, number one, ktani mias. Look, it says about the first unprocessed piece of leather, kedelotzu boy nishkolis ktano. It says nishkolis ktano v'omer abaye riva de pumpedisa. We see over there, it's a quarter of the liter of pumpedisa, and it's not the what? It's not the kamea. It's more than kamea. It's more than kamea, Rashi says. Right? How come? You told me that the unprocessed one, we were so happy already about leather. Life was so easy and nice. Easy street, right? Kamea. We broke the idyllia over here. All of a sudden we see that the unprocessed leather is more. It's enough to contain a weight. So what's going on here? Answers the Gemara, Hasam bebishula. There are two different types of unprocessed. Even the most unprocessed are two types. Bishula does mean cooked. What happens when you cook something? No, in halacha and in reality, becomes softer. Same thing. Bishula means it's such soft leather that bichlal it didn't begin to dry. It didn't dry it. That's what I said. There are 3.5 things you do. Because really, if you want good leather, you want to dry it and also do the 3 things. This one wasn't even dried. So the one that's not dried can never, and you'll never dry it, it can never become even potentially good for kameh. If you have one piece of leather that has not between kamiach and no afitz, no nafitz, no shmafitz, no nothing, no salt, but it's dry, because potentially you can make it into the kameh because it's dry, and you can't do all the rest, you'll get to kameh, then we have, now the cat's out of the bag. Now we understand why it's all the same shear. We all know the concept all through the Torah, kevan the X, it's ki'ilu already X. Kol haroy labila and bila makeves boy. Yeah, in other words, once something is almost all there, halacha says it's already there. Yeah, in other words, if I already have the piece of leather that's dry, it goes in that direction of dry. And if I want, I can process it into kameh, it's already ki'ilu good for kameh, it's the same shear. But the one that is not being dried, it's in a different course. It's meant for something else. It's so soft and mushy cushy. It's doesn't begin to be even potentially ready for kameh. And therefore the shear is not kameh. It has a different use to put inside the mishkolas. It's a different trajectory in its life. Now, Frag the Gemara, another question, Vatnan. And this is again Tuma Vatara. We saw this already before, this Mishnah quoted here. Vatnan, Frag the Gemara. Beged, what is a sheer tuma for different materials? What's beged made out of? Semel or pishtim in halacha? Or there's a shayla also about other ones, silk, but let's say semel pishtim, shloishal lemedras, which means if it's about regular tumas meis, tumas sheretz, what's called a beged? Sholoish, feminine, it's boys, fingers. But for medras, you need to sit on it. You need shlosh tfachim, way bigger, way bigger. 30 centimeters over 30 centimeters, a bit less, yeah. For medras means something to sit on, to lie on. You can't, you don't sit on such a tiny thing, yeah. Hasak, what's sak made out of? We discussed recently of the goats. The one with the goat's wool, anything made out of goat's wool, arbo. You don't use it by small amounts. It's thick, it's coarse. You can only use it with a bigger amount of 4 tfachim on 4 tfachim for both types of tuma. Only 4 tfachim. Ha'or chamisha al chamisha. Did you hear that? Or is only mekabel tuma. A piece of leather is mekabel tuma only if it's 5 tfachim over 5 tfachim. We're getting near to 50 centimeters. Yeah, that's big. Mapats is basically there, like a tatami, like a rug made out of like shoots, like canes. Yeah, mapats shisha al shisha, 6 tfachim by 6 tfachim. Ben lemedras ben lemes, regardless of the type of tuma. Only by beged there's a difference between like wearing it or sitting on it. The other ones you don't wear them; you just sit in them, and therefore it's only big ones. Tfachim, 4, 5, 6 tfachim. Wait, one thing we see, Vitania law. Oh, so it's about Tuma. Who cares about Shabbos? No, Vitania law. It says in the Brisa on it, Habeged, V'asak, V'aor, Kishir Latuma, Kach Shir Loitza. Uh-oh. It says that the same shear that it has regarding Tuma is the same shear for Hoitzah on Shabbos. Whoops. What's the shear for Or again? We're learning about Or today. Ein Tes, Or Tov. We said leather is what? We say, Sakar Balabo, Or Chamisha, Chamisha. 5 tfachim on 5 tfachim is way more than kamea. 5 tfachim, my friends, we're talking about, no, it's not 50 centimeters. 5 tfachim, I made a mistake. It's about tfachim is, no, there was shloshim. It's not like a meter, it's smaller than that. But still, yeah, tefach, it's like 4 tfachim. Each one is a tefach. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's quite big. It's that big. That big, yeah. It's much bigger than the kamea, right? So it's a stira. You're telling me an or is always for kameh, like this. It's 4 tfachim over 4 tfachim, it's much bigger. What's going on? Answers the Gemara, Ahu beku tuvla. Again, there are many different types of leather, which means, what are we talking about over here? We're talking about sitting on something hard. The kind of leather we discussed here, which is big, 4 tfachim over 4 tfachim, is what? We're talking about something that was cooked already and hardened. It was cooked hard leather. It's not the leather of your let's say belt. It's like the hard kind of leather you sit on like as a chair, right? Rashi says you make luvkois, which are like folding chairs, like beach chairs. Yeah, that kind of leather, of course, you're not gonna make kameh. It's hard. It doesn't fold. It doesn't fold nice, like soft leather, supple leather. It's really hard. It's a chair of leather. Therefore, there it's 4 tfachim. Mashenken here, we're talking about normal soft leather. The shear is always kidei kamea. So now we know all about leather. And Bezos Hashem, tomorrow is going to be very, very interesting about stam, about klaf. Klaf has been through all 3. If you notice up until now, each one is missing something. Mashenken, if you've been through everything, then, and you cut v'chula, you have to cut them, then it's called klaf. Klaf is already the best one. That's ready to write Sefer Torah. Filin and mezuzah. Shkoyach chotzum, thank you very much. See you tomorrow, Bezos Hashem. Tomorrow is, Bezos Hashem. I recommend we show up 9:10 if you can, because to set it up and like he gave me a place where we're going to sit in the
room behind where the
no, in the main room. Hope the noise won't disturb us. In the main room of Mamlaez, on the right-hand side, closer to the Aron Kodesh, on the right-hand side. I'll be there, Blina. I'll come a bit earlier. Yeah, okay. It's nice. It's not too noisy. I've been there many times at night. It's noisy, but it's not like crazy. It's not like, Panavision or the mirror, yeah? So, listen, we'll give it a try at least a few days, see what happens. Okay, I'm saying this stuff online, so people should know that we're going to be there. And Bez Hashem, hope you doesn't make a difference, right? You okay with it? What?
Extra minute.
No, schar licha. For me, it's more than extra. For me, it's just the furthest. Atzlocha, shkoyach, thank you very much. See you tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem. Thank you.
I just personally like the time with Spartan because in the cottage you have the extra man,